HR leaders, what's on your mind these days? Is it AI? Is it the economy? The talent market? Remote work? Retention? DEI? Pay transparency? New laws? Our 2024 Workplace Trends Report outlines how HR leaders are thinking about these challenges and what they believe will help their organizations overcome them. Want to find out what they said? Head on over to peoplemanagingpeople.com/Workplace Trends 2024 and download the report to find out.
My guest today, Enrique Rubio, didn't start off in a career of human resources. His first focus was on engineering. Now he spends his days as a founder of a global movement called Hacking HR, with global chapters around the world and a massive online community. I am really excited for everyone to hear the story behind Hacking HR and how this community supports HR in every sense and in every city around the world. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Tim Reitzma, the resident host of People Managing People. Welcome to the podcast. We're people managing people, and we want to lead and manage better. We're owners, founders, entrepreneurs. We're middle managers. We're team leaders. We're managing people, and yes, we do human resources. But we're not HR, at least not in the traditional sense. We're on a mission to help people lead and manage their teams and organizations more effectively. So if you want to lead and manage better, if you want to become a better organizational leader and more effective people manager, then join us. Keep listening to the podcast to find the tips, tricks, and tools you need to recruit, retain, manage, and lead your people and organization more effectively. And while listening to the show, please subscribe and join our mailing list on peoplemanagingpeople.com to stay up to date with all that's going on. Thanks for joining, Enrique.
Well, thanks so much for inviting me and to have this conversation about HR and hacking HR and some of the work that we've been doing around the world.
Yeah, before we get into it, I've done my research in hacking HR and into your journey as well. But why don't we start off with telling us about hacking HR? What is hacking HR?
Absolutely. Well, hacking HR is a global learning community that brings HR leaders and practitioners together to learn, discuss, collaborate, share about all things that are at the intersection of future of work, technology, organizations, people, innovation, and of course, how all that impacts the world and the work of HR. And even though we're called Hacking HR, one thing that we are as well is that not only do we bring people that work in HR, but also people who somehow have an impact in the work of HR, but they are not necessarily in the function. Technologists, consultants, vendors, business leaders, and whatnot. So we are a very open community, mainly by HR people, but a very open community, and interested in bringing people together to learn about all these things.
Yeah, I think that's one question that I had was, my background isn't really in, HR in the sense of HR. I've led people and had an opportunity to lead and hire and mentor people throughout my career. So would I fit this community? Is it specifically for human resource professionals, or, is it open for anyone?
It's open to anyone. When we create a new chapter in a new city, the very first thing that I mentioned about the principles of the chapter is that the chapters are open communities. And what that means is that anybody can participate in a chapter. They are all welcome to participate. And it doesn't matter if you're in HR. Actually, totally the opposite. It's even better if you're not in HR. Because when that happens, then we are doing something that is core of what we're trying to do here, which is cross-pollinate ideas. So if you're coming from technology, from sales, from marketing, from consulting, from strategy, from innovation, doesn't matter where you come from. I am sure that whatever you're bringing to the table of the conversations that we're having will be highly valued as part of what HR needs to understand to continue doing better work. So that's a long answer to say that you don't have to be in HR. It can be anybody joining this community.
Well, I like that. And I like what you said about cross-pollinating ideas. And so having people from, your background is engineering having people in sales or manufacturing, or it doesn't necessarily matter what part of the organization you're in. You can join this community and share ideas and build on those ideas. So, if there's chapters around the globe, and there's a massive online community of over 80,000 followers, on LinkedIn alone. Yeah. And so, if somebody joined one of the chapters or went to this online community or online events, what's a takeaway from an event?
Well, I would say a couple of things. The first one is getting together with other humans that are interested in sort of learning and sharing and collaborating about the same kind of topics, right? So I think one of the main takeaways is people connecting with other people. Whenever somebody asks me about my role in this community, well, of course I'm a founder, but I always say I am a builder, and what I build is bridges. And what I do with those bridges is when I build them, I am hoping to provide an opportunity for people to cross those bridges and connect with others. For example, we do events that are happening in, London, Singapore, Mumbai, Lagos, South Africa, and, Buenos Aires. So what I'm hoping is that somebody here in America or in any other country, when they see that there's something going on in Buenos Aires with the Hacking HR community, that's a bridge that we're building. So the first takeaway is you got a bridge. Now you got the opportunity to cross it and understand what people in the same kind of a space in which you are, what they're doing, and what you can learn from them and what you can share with them so that they also learn from you. So I think that's perhaps the main learning out of this experience. It is the fact that people can build community while participating in Hacking HR. And of course, the second thing is more, kind of like knowledge, information. And because we cover so many areas, you can expect to participate in an event that is talking about culture, but maybe you participating in another event that is talking about artificial intelligence, and maybe then you move on to another event that is talking about digital transformation. So all of the chapters and globally we're covering basically everything that pertains the fun areas of HR. It depends of the event or on the event that people are joining, but always they will get some great content and great information. So I think it's these two things. Number one, it is the fact that they come to participate in a community-based organization. And number two, it is the fact that there's some interesting ideas and interesting knowledge shared during that one event that people are participating, and the topics, vary depending on what the event is about and what the chapter that is putting together, the Hacking HR chapter that is putting that event together.
I didn't even actually think about that, especially if you have a team, or maybe you're taking on a team, managing a team in a different country, or maybe you're moving somewhere and you need to really understand the nature of how work is done in that particular place. Yeah. I think in my career, I had an opportunity to lead and help build a team in Japan. I could have used you. It would have saved a lot of trial and error. It's because managing people is very different from North America to a place like Japan, and work is very different.
Work is different, and even though we have some commonalities, right, in at least in HR challenges and workplace challenges, everything is different. Like people, there's a different culture. There's different ways to tackle problems. There's different ways to collaborate. There's different ways to promote innovation. There's different ways to think about diversity and inclusion. So all of these things matter in a globalized world. Now you can, you go to LinkedIn and you can just look for somebody in Tokyo and say like, hey team, what's going on? I know you are in Tokyo. I'm in Flagstaff, Arizona. Can we just have a conversation about this one thing? And maybe you think like, this team guy is, he's crazy. I don't even know who he is. Mm-hmm. But on the other hand, if we have the bridge, which is Hacking HR, then you say, hey team, I am in Hacking HR in Flagstaff and you're Hacking HR in Tokyo. Do you have time to have a conversation about this one thing or that one thing? So that creates sort of a better, excuse, if you will, to connect.
Yeah, I think it's great. Yeah, versus just a random, cold call or cold email through LinkedIn or through your network. And so, yeah, I kind of want to just take a step back, and I didn't actually pose this question to you ahead of time, so maybe I'll put you on the spot a little bit. But what does human resources mean to you?
Well, that's a great question. I think when I think about human resources, I think about the function that is in charge with doing everything that pertains to people in an organization. And when I say people, I mean internally, right? It doesn't necessarily mean people outside of the organization, which of course they are related, but it's mostly people inside the organization. So HR is, as a function, is in charge of doing everything that pertains to leading people, to managing processes that are related to people in any given organization. So that is a large bucket of things, which include, of course, the core traditional HR functionality, meaning hiring, firing, recruitment, attracting talent, paying, sort of ensuring some level of compliance and whatnot. But it also includes a lot of other things that have not been traditionally included in the core bucket of HR features or functionalities, if you will. And some of those things are like design thinking, agility, employee experience, culture, leadership, coaching, mentoring, digital transformation, innovation. So all of those areas that somehow impact the work that people do and require people to do some kind of work, HR must be in there. Now, there's a foundation of this, of course, and one foundation that is the first part of the HR, and it's the H of HR. It is the human part of it. Unfortunately, HR as a concept came to exist like about 120 years ago, with the advent of the industrial age, particularly the second industrial revolution at the end of the 1800s. And the concept of HR came to exist because companies were standardizing their processes and they wanted people to do the same thing day in and day out for 14 hours every day. So HR came to exist as a concept to ensure that people were hired, fired, paid, and enforced into processes that were in place, right? Of course, that concept has radically evolved over time, but very often HR continues to be a very transactional administrative function that only basically is administrating processes instead of like truly unleashing people's potential, building an organization that is based on humanity, love, empathy, caring, understanding. So to me, HR is that function that deals with everything pertaining to people, but it has to do it in a way that is, beginning with the person, with the employee, with the human in mind. And that's something that we have not reached yet, by the way.
So that's interesting. I agree with you, and traditionally it's human reresources came from an idea of transaction, right? Mm-hmm. Transactional process. Mm-hmm. And when you say we haven't gotten there yet, what's holding us back?
Our mindset. Very simple. I respond to that question pretty quickly because that's the answer. It's funny because it's like, when you think about, basic things in life, like, for example, getting in good physical shape. Let me give you that example, getting in good physical shape. What do you need to get in good physical shape? You need to work out and you need to have good nutrition. Those two things are literally, in your reach. You don't have to be wealthy. You don't have to have all these resources. You don't have to have, a lot of, things and equipment and things, to eat well and to exercise, sort of like continually, if you will. The same thing happens in HR. It is, for the people who want to get in better shape, better physical shape, it is all about their mindsets. When you decide to eat more chocolate than you should be eating, it is your mindset. It is you thinking, oh, I need chocolate, right? So it is nothing else. When you think about, I cannot go out for a run because, well, this or that, it is you, putting yourself all these obstacles. So I think it's a matter of mindset, man. We have the tools, we have the knowledge, we have the information, we have the infrastructure, we have the network, we have all that we need to make business happen. It's just that, somehow people in HR, they feel more comfortable doing the same things that they've done for a long time in the same way. They feel that doing things differently means leaving behind things that they are very dear of, like, the way they run the process and whatnot. And maybe more importantly, it is scary to do things in a different way because you don't know what your place will be in that different world. If you know what you do every day and you continue to do that, you have some level of comfort. But if you start doing things differently, then it becomes complicated because then you have to learn new skills, new capabilities. You got to do things in a different way. And that becomes a little scary for people. And HR is not really known for being the most innovative or risk-taking function. So I think that's part of what's holding us back.
Yeah, as I'm listening to you speak, I can completely relate. I've worked in organizations who are very traditional, very traditional, as well as organizations that were very progressive in terms of HR. Where HR was seen as a transaction, right? I need to figure out something on my pay stub, or I need to learn about my benefits, or I need to get a resource or a form in order to track my tech allowance or that type of thing. But it's definitely more than that. And so, your online community is on LinkedIn alone is over 80,000 people. So I get a sense that there's people interested in this, in figuring out how to, well, in a sense, hack HR. And so, where do you see this going? We're at, you've got really good growth chapters all over the world, and people are understanding that we need to change. We need to change how we are perceived in our workplaces as more than just a transaction. So, where do you see HR going?
Where do I see HR going? That's a great question. I think there are four things. I started talking about something that I call the new value proposition for HR. And I started talking about this 3 years ago. There are four things that I think are important in this new value proposition. There are four elements. Element number one is people. We must transition out of a process-based thinking to a people-based thinking. Let me give you one example of that. The way candidates have been treated in the marketplace. I don't know if this happened to you, but it's happened to me personally. I get called to an interview and they call me and they say, "Oh, you're awesome. Interview number one, interview number two, interview number three." Then radio silence. Nothing happens. I call them back. I send them emails. Nothing. Mm-hmm. And is that the way to treat a person, a human being? No. Do I want to work for that company that treated me that way? No, I don't want to work with them anymore. So this is the thing. And that's just one tiny, tiny, tiny example of the things that I think need to change in HR. So maybe for that company, the process is you call the person. If the person does not qualify, you discard the person. Like if it was a disposable cup, right? You don't call them anymore. Maybe that's what the process says. Maybe not in that way, but maybe that's what the process implies. Now, if you, instead of thinking about the process, you think about the human that is behind the process, and you know that you are creating expectations in somebody when you're offering them the opportunity for an interview. And when you create expectations, they also have expectations from you. Then you start thinking differently about the way you work. Because for you, it's not just doing a process to achieve an outcome or an output. For you, it is how you can build relationships. How can I put these humans first? So out of the new value proposition, and that's one example in the recruitment space, which is kind of pretty broken. Mm-hmm. But there are many other examples. Performance management is one of them. Like every cell in my body hates the annual rating-based performance management. And it's not just, I don't just hate it because because like out of the blue, I decided that I hate this thing. It doesn't work. We all know, and we've researched for a long time, and we've put in evidence that an annual rating-based performance management does not work to drive better performance, to increase engagement, motivation, and to provide a better employee experience at work. However, many companies remain sort of encroached in that approach because it is the process that they have in place. Now, if they would change their minds from the process to the human, they would understand that people are expecting to hear feedback more often, that yes, they want to have their salary increases, but they don't want to have their salary increases tied to a limitation in, they don't want to have the performance review tied to a limitation in budget that drives their bonuses or their increases and whatnot. They want to have more. These people want to hear what the real feedback is about, even if they don't get the salary increase that they are wanting. So anyway, this first element, I can talk about 1,000 examples, but the first element is people. The second element is aligning with the business. This is very, very important. And you may think like, oh, Enrique, come on, that's so ridiculous. I mean, aligning with the business, everybody knows that. I mean, everybody should know that. Well, the reality is that when you ask HR people out there if they know what their business is about, if they know the direction of the organization, if they know the strategy, I can bet you that 90% of HR people do not have an idea of what that is, of what the strategy, the goals, the purpose, the long-term vision is. And that creates a problem, because how can you help your leaders and your organization succeed in the marketplace? How can you help them remain sustainable, thriving, and sort of in the long term, if you don't know what they are about, if you don't know the direction in which they are? Even more importantly, how do you even know if your processes are either helping or hindering the achievement of the goals of the organization if you don't know what those goals are? So the second element in the new value proposition of HR is aligning with the business. The third element is becoming more innovative and agile. And this is very critical. Our processes in HR truly suck. And we gotta begin with the following. It is, let me go back to the example of getting in a better shape. If you want to get in a better shape because you're not in a good shape right now, your first step has to be to acknowledge that you're not in good shape. Let me give you my own life. I was a competitive runner 25 years ago. For a period of about 8 years, I stopped running and I continued to eat as if I was running. So I gained something like 70 pounds. And I got to a point where I was like, I don't feel good with myself. I don't feel well with myself. I don't look good. I don't feel like this is not me. I don't feel well. I'm not in a good physical shape. So then I made the determination that I needed to change. And now I'm back, fortunately, in an even better shape than when I was, 18 years old, several years ago. Mm-hmm. So The point here is that to be agile and innovative, we gotta begin with the place of understanding that our processes are not delivering the kind of value that we want them to deliver. And once we understand that, then we start thinking, how can we make these processes more flexible, better, smoother, more effective, more efficient, more aligned with the business? And the last element is technology. And technology, I'm leaving the last element purposefully at the end, because many companies are making the mistake to begin with technology instead of using technology as a tool to leverage and to sort of amplify the possibilities of the HR function. Anyway, where do I see the HR of the future? I see an HR that is focused on 4 things. Number 1, putting people first. Number 2, truly aligning with the business. Number 3, becoming more agile and more innovative. And number 4, leveraging on technology to amplify and do better what they should be doing better and more effective, if you will. That was a long answer to your question.
It was, however, I really appreciate that. And going through my mind is, well, we could just do an entire podcast series on these 4 pieces. And so we may have to actually pick that up. And as you were talking, like number 1, people-based, right? Focus on people. Your example of recruiting, has happened to me numerous times, and it doesn't feel good, right? We need to treat people as people, and then lining with the business, right? I've heard from HR recruiters who all of a sudden get, a dozen employee or new positions that they need to recruit for, and they didn't have a clue that they were coming, and so it is a potential bottleneck for growth of organizations. So having human resources sitting at that executive table, if you will, planning out the strategy, understanding where the business is going, innovate and being agile, being able to shift and change. And then, technology. And I see this in a lot of organizations is, we need to revise a process, so we need to get a new piece of technology. It's like, no, let's sit back and really, really understand what we're trying to do, and then go to technology and find a piece of technology. So,
I just wanted to add one comment to what you're saying that is so critical. And we have to understand, we have to begin with people and processes and then add technology. Let me give you one example of doing the wrong thing. I don't know if you remember last year, Amazon rolled out an artificial intelligence-based recruitment platform. It was designed, unfortunately, by a non-diverse male team. I don't know what the composition of the team was exactly, but it was mostly male. So what happened was that the tool they designed, because technology is at the end of the day algorithms that are designed by humans. And because they are designed by humans, they have the possibility of bringing with them the biases that humans have. So what happened with this algorithm was that it was discriminating against women, particularly women of color. So now, was the problem the technology? The answer is no. The problem was not the technology. The problem was the process that was behind the design of that technology. That's why it is so important that people understand that technology is the last step in the process. You only bring it when you're ready, when your processes are ready, when you have, streamlined, simplified, and made everything better, and then you bring technology to help you amplify it and be more effective.
I'm curious, your background is engineering, and do you feel that your background in engineering has influenced your way of thinking about HR?
Yes, definitely. No doubt. One thing that I don't know anymore is, I don't know how to build a robot. I used to know how to do that. When I was in school, I cannot do that anymore because, it's been more than, 10, 15 years out of the practice of electronic engineering. Now, what I bring in mind to the practice of HR and the workplace in general is what the underlying principles that you learn in engineering, being process oriented, doing project management, systematizing information, breaking down complex problems into smaller pieces so that you can tackle each one at a time and not the entire piece together. And this is very important because, this is one thing that happens with HR, which I think is a painful thing to just talk about. If you have a problem in HR, the approach of HR is, wait a second, to solve that problem, we have to provide a solution that is an end-to-end solution, meaning we have to provide a full-fledged developed solution. In engineering, you don't do that. In engineering or in technology in general, you see a complex problem and you break it up in smaller pieces and you solve one small piece, then you solve the other small piece, then you solve the other small piece. So what that gives you is the ability to sort of think as in modules, if you will, and then have different teams tackling different areas and then combine everything. Or maybe if you have only one team, the team is moving along the different sections of the problem instead of trying to do an end-to-end solution that by the time you get to the last end of the end-to-end solution, the solution is already obsolete or was not good in the first place. HR does not have that kind of thinking. HR tries to do everything end-to-end, losing valuable time and missing valuable feedback in the process. So I think that's one of the things that I'm bringing from engineering to the HR world and to the practice of, or to the creation of this community that I am running, Hacking HR. It is that, with engineers think, very process oriented. I also have my artistic brain, by the way, just in case, I'm not just left brain. I'm also, I'm emotional, I'm human. Yeah, I'm an artist too, and I think, I combine the two brains, which I think is fundamental. And I think the combination of the analytical thinking and the emotional human thinking or human skills is critical to succeed in the workplace. So that's why HR will not be able to succeed if all they think about is, just processes or just like, things that impact humans. And engineers won't be able to succeed if all they think about is processes and systems and technology and not on the human side of it. So I think we need the combination of both. And that's what I think I've been bringing to the workplace and the practice of HR over the past few years.
Yeah, thanks for kind of running us through that process it, because that's, my brain is very process oriented as well as, I have a passion for leading people. And so, a question that came to mind is, okay, so let's say an HR professional or even a founder of an organization is listening to this, and their task list is 100 things to do. And so it's like, okay, I know I need to come up with performance management or a check-in process or coaching, or, really focus more on my people, but I don't have time. Yeah. And so, we talk about, we keep doing things the way we've been doing them, or we always have an excuse of not enough time. So how do we then shift, like a practical way, if you have one practical way that we can shift our mindset? It's more focused on people.
That's a great question, and there are skills that are human by nature, and it's funny because I've been talking about this one thing very, very, strongly over the past couple of weeks. If you think about things that are human by nature, intrinsically human: curiosity, innovation, love, caring, tolerance, understanding, imagination, innovation, collaboration with others, those things are intrinsically human. What happens with us, or what's happened with us over time, that we don't practice those things anymore? So you think about education, the formal education system. You go to a classroom and you're not taught to be creative. You're not taught to be a rebel. You're not taught to be curious. What you're taught is to follow the lead of a teacher. And except, there are some, exceptions to this thing, but more generally across the world, education is meant to kill off people's creativity, innovation, curiosity, imagination, rebellious spirit, in lieu of, and in place of that, they put sort of a more system of obedience and loyalty and just following the existing rules. Number one. Then you go through school and you're like, well, I was curious before. When I was 5 years old, I'm not curious anymore. And now you go into, but you think I'm a little creative. I'm still a little creative. So then you come to work and you think like, I'm going to conquer the world because I'm so creative, and I'm going to come to work and I'm going to bring all these ideas. Then you come to work and you start working, and then a boss tells you like, oh yeah, those ideas are good, but that's not how we do things in here. The way we do things in here is we follow the process. And if you follow the process, you're going to succeed in this company. So you grow in a company because you're following the process, not because you have a free, rebellious spirit. So for HR to do better, we got to go back to the basics. And going back to the basics means going back to what being human truly means. So HR will need to start sort of thinking and behaving as humans, being curious, being innovative, being creative, using the imagination, and collaborating with others and whatnot. Let me give you one specific example of this kind of weird hippie answer that I'm giving.
Sure.
This is the way HR generally operates. There's a problem in the organization. HR comes in and they offer a solution, and the solution is implemented and whatnot. Very often that solution is only, sort of designed by HR and sometimes approved by leadership. Very few times does HR go to the company and ask for recommendations, for feedback, for ideas and whatnot. So instead of coming from a place of the know-it-all kind of guy in the classroom, where you show yourself as the invincible know-it-all kind of person, what if we turn that around, and instead of telling people what to do and how to do it, we ask them, hey, we got this problem. Does anybody have an idea on how to do this one thing? When you start from that place, you're changing the process here. And you're not coming from a place of telling people what to do. You are instead collecting their feedback, collecting their knowledge, sort of empowering them to also think with you what the solution of that problem could be. And the end solution that you implement for whatever problem you're trying to solve will be way more powerful than if you had done it all by yourself. So anyway, this happens very often in the world of HR. So what I'm saying here is that instead of starting from a place of know-it-all, maybe you start from a place of asking it all, which is a little different, if you will.
I love that.
But the place of asking it all begins with going back to the basics. So anyway, to your question, what should HR should be doing right now and HR people to embrace these ideas that we're talking about? And the answer to me is difficult to implement, but simple to express, which is go back to the basics. Allow people to be human. Allow people to ask questions, be innovative, take risk, experiment. And one more time, I don't know when you will be releasing this podcast, but if it's in the near term, what happens is that right now we're going through this tragedy known as the coronavirus. Many companies are all in the same place, the same starting point, which is we have no idea what to do. We have no idea what's going to happen tomorrow. We have no idea how we're going to survive. So this is the thing for HR. Now you got the greatest opportunity of your lifetime in HR to bring everybody to the table and tell them, hey guys, you know what? You don't know what to do, nor do we know what to do. We have no idea what's going to happen tomorrow. We have no idea how we're going to solve this problem. Now, these are the questions and these are the problems that we're dealing. Can we get together and start thinking about how to solve these problems together? So you are creating a powerful experience of empowerment. And that is maybe one great step to start thinking about people, aligning with business, being agile, innovative, and maybe using technology to help these things happen. Long answer again. All my answers are long.
No, it's I've got so many more questions. I think we could go. We could probably go on for a couple hours, but I think you're absolutely right. And for our listeners, as I think a big takeaway is whether you're in HR or in sales or you're a founder or wherever you are in an organization, is get curious, ask questions. I think that's what we have to get back to as people in organizations. We're innately curious. And in some cases, in some positions, we're told to put our curiosity aside and just do the job. But people inside our organizations have great ideas, and we need to create platforms for people to hear that. And that's where it comes up to. I think even hitting all four of your points earlier on, right? It touches on innovation and technology and aligning and creating those human moments. So, with that, I think, we'll definitely have you on again as a guest and in the future. And so I really just want to thank you for coming on. And if people are interested in hacking HR, where can they find you and what can they expect?
They can just reach out to me via LinkedIn. And, I think when they put Enrique Rubio in the LinkedIn thing, search box, I think I'm the first one coming up in there.
Okay.
Or they can just reach out to me via email, enrique@hackinghr.io. And, I'm always as responsive as possible, and, happy to connect with your listeners to, continue the conversation and share more ideas if that's the case.
Yeah, definitely. I was just on the website. I've been on a number of times now as I'm embarking on a new HR position and looking for a community to ask questions to. So head to hackinghr.io and search for your city. There's chapters around the globe. And if there isn't a chapter in your particular area, then, I think reach out to Enrique and maybe start one. Maybe there's other people in your area that could benefit from this. So with that, I want to thank you again for coming on and spending the last half an hour with us. I think it was insightful and a lot of great takeaways as we continue on looking at the future of work. And we don't know what that looks like. We're in a strange time here in 2020 with the future can change within a matter of hours. So, so with that, we will wrap it up. And for our listeners, head to peoplemanagingpeople.com, and we'd love to get your feedback on this podcast as well as our website. And if there's any other topics you'd like us to cover, just let us know. So have a great day, everyone. Take care.